terrible. And we tipped her extraordinarily well.
Extraordinarily, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't drop me like a 5 on the table.
Yeah, Victor and I, we dropped over more than $10 when we got.
Hey.
I gave her 8, so she's got like a 50.
It's a measuring.
You know that comes with 2 sides, right?
I'm
It
sorry.
comes with 2 sides.
There's this beer in
Oh,
there.
you're a wonderful man.
And I'm like,
Brought me this can of cold
There's
shit.
a couple of bottles of water in it too. That's fine. He's got a big.
I've got an extra big bottle of water here, but it's still cold.
there's
Okay,
a,
sure.
there's a case of water back
Oh.
there in that room.
Who else needed
I
one?
don't feel like we should have it.
You can see that one.
Like 2 days of a case of PBR or like small town America. They have like PBR's coffee flavored something now. Which is just an abomination in my opinion. Like, what you know, boys.
Pat's brown ribbon.
So come on, there's gotta be some milk, there's gotta be some PBR, there's gotta be something.
All right, I guess we'll get going here.
There's some deep down there, under colder. Just get under the Sorry.
All right. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. I'm going to start with an announcement or two. Today, as you know, is September 17th. October 1st, Saturday, October 1st at 6 p.m., we will have our next open mic here. That's 2 weeks from today. The featured readers that day, Tony Brewer will be here from Bloomington, Indiana, as well as M. Scott Douglas from H3 Drag, who will be coming through on his motorcycle. Far away. So, with that, I will give you the rest of our schedule for the season when we get to the end here. It's a little bit warm, but we are lucky today because tomorrow night it's supposed to be sweltering and nobody wants to be in here. So, we'll get this going. All right. We have a number of readers today. We have a few people canceled, but generally, for as many people as I had scheduled, we're doing pretty darn good. So I'm gonna figure this out here. All right. Not to throw my very good friend in the fire, but the gentleman who is about to come up is the whole reason why I put this reading together on September 17th, because he said he wanted to come through this part of the country and was doing some driving. Just one of my very best friends. He has no expectations, which is good. I can meet those as a friend. But, all right. So, he is the author, most recently, of Backroads Misplaced, I believe, unless you put out another book that I have not seen.
No. You're up to date.
He will be reading tomorrow at Swordfish Tom's in Kansas City at 7 p.m. He will be reading Monday evening at 7 p.m. at Dumbo Bottoms in Jefferson City. And then Wednesday he will be in St. Louis at Dunaway Books. Got quite a busy plate, and I'm sure by the end of it, Missouri will be tired of you, sir. All right.
Or the other way around.
Well, maybe so.
It could
But
go many ways.
without further ado, I welcome up my very good friend, former Osage Arts Community Artist in Residence, and a wonderful human being, Jason Baldinger. Jason.
Thanks, everybody.
You wore your clean shirt today.
I did. It might be the last one I have.
There you go.
We'll see what happens. This is for Victor Clevenger. It's called A Carrollton Prayer. Parked in a convertible Cadillac on a side street under a cottonwood under the Missouri sun, sprawled across the seat raconteur and aviators look at John Prine and Sweet Revenge But prying, like so many things these past years, is gone. I never drive Cadillacs, nor do I usually sleep in them, but I was tired of watching the beehives shopping in the shadows of James Shields. I stopped in the 5 and 10, and they didn't need a stranger, and I didn't need a job. You came upon me confused. How was I even here? Not sure where I am anyway. All these small towns look the same. We should head for the homestead, a field of Clevengers growing up on the plains, Des Moines, and Kansas City, just far enough away. We could drop into some cinder block lounge where they boil hot dogs all day, catch the high life as cigarette smoke resembles Eisenhower's profile. We could head southwest through the Wizard of Oz and panhandles where stockyards reek of urine and death. Even with the semis rocketing past at 100, that smell stays in till well past Dalhart. We could talk about Lester Madden and how it's all come to sharks. Instead, it's health insurance, the mundane features that staple into a life, how this could be Ohio or Georgia or 1983. It's all the same moment, no matter which America you see. I'm gonna keep pandering to friends since I'm reading. Lester Madden's sunglasses for John Dorsey. I have your sunglasses, babe. Left arm missing, tooth cracks across the right lens. They're in the cup holder, dreaming of Hooper's bloodless paperback death. I'll mail them back with Roy Scheider's headshot, signed and sealed, care of the Korean War. This is from a chapbook that Tom Bacallis did on the Between Shadows Press label. It says, I remember the Royal River. I remember the Royal River. A bleached skeleton, bones calloused and raw, these forever miles, the only skin left attached. Vermont rain-soaked halos glow dry in July sunshine. I remember the Royal River, mile-long rutted driveways, a peninsula breaks into islands, black flies, tall grass, backgammon days past picking ticks off golden retrievers. I remember the Royal River, the main granite coast, lone trees claw that hold rocks, the ice-cold Atlantic, this gaunt face and tide pool. I remember the Royal River, tequila on the docks, fortification for a last day's boogie. Gather these atoms south with notions of Sacco and Vanzetti. I remember the Royal River as a skeleton with a compass in place of memory. Thanks to John and OAC for having me. It's a pleasure to be in Belle.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Mark. I didn't even know you were hiding back there.
Mark has a way of doing that.
He just sneaks in. I never thought I'd write a Van Halen poem, but I did. Civic Arena, March 7th, 1984. Snow on the dash. Snow crunches under the tires of a 77 Rabbit. Her boyfriend's friend with a handful of pills to share. She plastered a pint with jeans. Security never looked anywhere. Into the fog, the floor fog machine smells. The pills slowing down, speeding up together. Time and Dave, glitter, blur, and fuzz from this far away. Running with the devil into eruption. She never cared for those long solos of whiskey and counting 23 times for the word jump. It's infinity. What's infinity? Drunk enough on her boyfriend's shoulders, arms up gigantic as they tour into Ain't Talking About Love, last song, and it's everything spinning. Freedom is a ghost waiting to go numb. The post office ain't the same. There is nothing wild left of what remains. This is for Paul Koniecki. The Deep Ellum Blues. Phil Levine, Larry Levis, and a lot of paranoia. I've never seen Dallas from a DC-10 at night. The saw that floats through that song is every phantom embodied across the miles, Lubbock to Wichita Falls. I've never taken the ramp, followed 287 into the Zapruder film. The spool ran out, and now history is a Butthole Surfers video. Allen Dulles is wholly responsible for the Kennedy assassination. That for America's second bloody coup, the powers that be learned about martyrs and then went bloodless. He was killed because the Cuban Missile Crisis had turned him from hawk into chicken hawk. It had torn out his spine and left him and the world longing for peace. Revenge and capitalism can't survive peace. Hence Lee Harvey Oswald, hence Jack Ruby, hence what really happened on the grassy knoll will carry its weight in mystery. Paul, I headed for Texarkana because sometimes the road offers no salvation. Sometimes the wheels are just another form of madness. We should be smoking joints in Lee Harvey Oswald's rooming house, and you look at me as Larry Levis and say, so death blows its little fucking trumpet, big deal. And I'd answer as Phil Levine, I can hear the even breathing of all that is wordless and final. And the butthole surfers play the Shaw Sleeps in Lee Harvey's grave, and maybe our preaching days are through. Because when the night dusts off all those Tejas stars, fuck if I don't fall hard for the Deep Ellum Blues.
Yeah. Gave me the goosebumps.
Thank you, David. I'm glad I could.
Hold on 1 second, this is gonna be loud.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, wasn't Larry Levis?
Yes, he was. This is Beckmeyer, Illinois, 1958 for Roy Beckmeyer, who's not here. We usually headed to Shoal Creek, but once I got older, it was Carlisle Lake. We'd find a dark alcove, toss our lines from shore. Sometimes we'd use a boat. Sometimes we'd listen while the bow cut through the water, and my dad would tell us again about how it was working in the mines, about everyone's brother or uncle gone, about the cave-ins, the explosions, how they lost a hand or a leg, maybe if they were lucky, only a finger. If they weren't, then maybe their lives. As I got older, I took this as a reminder to get out of town and not let the mines take me down, and I listened. He would tell us again about our grandfather, a machine runner, how he was running the air puncher when a ton of slate came down on him, how it shattered his back. They dug him out and took him to St. Louis, but it was too late, he was already gone. No matter how many times he told that story, the hair on my neck always stood up. The helmets we used on those nights were taken from the mines, and I wondered if the light that shone above me was the last light my grandfather had seen. If you'll indulge me 3 more. This is called Mosaic Octopus. It's for Jason Ryberg. Getting paranoid again. You said aliens are coming. I said the aliens are bringing us the weeds. And we stared through the dark from the basement porch at that bowl of a Salina skyline passing the roach. I said the last time I had a head full of mushrooms, I ended up accidentally alone, obsessively listening to the second side of Abbey Road, and around the 5th or 6th play the darkness started creeping hard, lungs tightened, and I knew shit was gonna get nasty if I didn't change direction. I found my coat and went outside, a few doors down a public garden, and I visited an octopus, made in glass and pottery, a mosaic octopus. February was snow, little more than a dusting, the octopus and the night sparkled, and I sat with the octopus and talked, and I'm pretty sure we said a prayer, and suddenly I was calm. Ryberg says mosaic octopus. I say mosaic octopus. We batted like a shuttlecock between us, find new sentences to build with it. Roach is out, and I can't find a clip. Someone should eat it. Say it's all yours. Consider it a gift, brother. Besides, it's time to call it for the night. I feel like a walking meatloaf. Oh God, poems are running away.
That's my creative process.
Thank you. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do, right? I did see. I want to put that there so it doesn't blow away again. Look at me. Shawn Pavey, this one's for you, baby.
All right, baby.
Getting any feed for your chickens? It's raining on Kansas Boulevard. The city drains into warehouses. 3 tacos sit on the front seat. And I find a parking lot, smother them in spicy salsa, chase them horchata, and wait out the rain. 800 miles through grasslands, riding on the ghosts of buffalo. There's a diner with a green chili cheeseburger waiting. This is closing in on some twisted trucker's tale. 6 years on the road, and I'm gonna eat well tonight. Hey, we can't all be Dave Dudley. Shawn, you're right. We are shaved apes. Poets shambling nowhere, crawling on our stomachs. There's been many nights where I've been within seconds of getting in the car, pedal down nonstop until 3 days later I find myself in the desert. And usually in that moment, whoever is with me realizes I'm serious and starts to talk me down. You know, brother, unemployment warps one's mind. It should be about finding yourself. Instead, it's all pressure, inadequacy, redefining yourself by work. I've said it before, I'll say it again. You are free. We all are. And if you ever hear the phone ring at 6 a.m., and you find my voice saying, you got 5 hours, pack a bag, we're going to Albuquerque, you'll know it's fucking serious. There's cheeseburgers and chilies waiting. All we gotta do is get gone.
Yeah. So we can get gone.
It'll happen one of these days. I haven't had that yen in a while. It's coming. Last poem. The only other thing for nothing. This is from my buddy Will Hackney from a postcard he sent to me. Got your postcard from the edge of civilization in a resort town where water stopped like time in the shimmer of 118 degrees, out where sea level still can't find the sea. California has eluded me. I haven't seen the Salton Sea, but I miss Zabriskie Point. I missed armed attendants pumping $5 gas under a blazing Mojave sun, desert rats aware the apocalypse already flashed. The last time we shared a desert, you were celebrating life beginning. And as the speeches and dances rolled, I was in a parking lot, cold moon rises full over the Sierra Blanca. Attempts to be a dutiful, if long-distance partner, lonely in the clash between living with abandon and living abandoned. I am yucca, as sun-bleached blossoms mummified while she is hostile, brandishing the shovel that will bury us. Come morning, I head east with eyes on Lubbock. Beyond Roswell, I spy a pecan grove. Symmetrical oasis stretches miles under an unforgiving sun. Park between the rows and stand outside myself. The only other thing is nothing. Thank y'all.
Yeah.
You're welcome, man. Thanks for having me.
Next reader I am going to bring up, I'm going to call up because she said she wasn't sure whether she'd be here for the whole evening, and I am nothing if not begrudgingly accommodating. She's the author of such books as Porous Land, Eden of Perhaps, and Coracle of Dreams. Agnes, Agnes.
Thanks so much for having me. And I figure you all heard me read from a book, so I'll read some new stuff.
Actually, there are people I know that have not heard you here, so we have some new people.
Okay.
I'm just saying we have some new people.
Okay, I'll read. Tell the bees. I kneel in last year's leaves to photograph the rue anemones on their slender stems. Take the same pictures each year. Things deserve to be honored every time they emerge, you once said. I pay homage to the fiddlehead ferns coiled tightly with expectation. The zebra swallowtail who unfolds his wings in the prayer to spring. The microbes in the soil are busy with their invisible work. The earth did not stop turning when your heart stopped beating. Today, I folded my arms around your widow, held her fragile frame, and knew no words of consolation. And yet, The trees release clouds of pollen into a wondrous blue sky. The white plumes of the blossoms beckon the bees. Folk wisdom says one must tell the bees of a death, hang the hives with black cloth, and sing to them. I hope someone did. So I'm working on some memoir stuff, and I'll read you two of those pieces. One is, I don't know if it's a prose poem or flash nonfiction. It's called Undeliverable. It is Thursday. She has closed the store for lunch and popped upstairs to feed her son. She is clearing the dishes. The 5-year-old is already engrossed in his drawing. On a torn sheet of stationery, he draws tanks, planes, smoke. She wishes he would draw the dog. She unties her apron, slips on her coat against the January cold, and hurries down to the gate to get the mail. She reaches into the mailbox, feels the shape of a letter, her lips begin to smile, until she recognizes her own handwriting. For a moment, she does not comprehend, stares at the envelope with the stamp, undeliverable, return to sender, crimson like blood. Her hand starts shaking. She runs up the stairs and presses her son close. Days go by, weeks. The letters keep coming. They pile up on her desk, undeliverable. The word pierces her day. Her nights become tunnels of sleeplessness. When the typewritten letter arrives, it shatters the shard of hope she had hidden away. She already knows what it will say. For the glory of Führer and fatherland, you are now a widow. The officer put as much empathy into his letter as he was allowed. He enclosed a sketched map, a crossroads in the Russian countryside, black squares for buildings, a red cross for the grave. 80 years later, her granddaughter finds the yellowed scrap of paper among her prized possessions. The luxury of a gravesite. My mother and I carry out the rituals of grieving. We visit the cemetery, lay last week's wilted roses on the compost, fill the vase, leave fresh bouquets, a testament to remembrance. Next year, when the ground has settled, we will plant perennials. In Dad's study, I trace his search for roots, baptisms and death, my great-grandmother's life in 3 handwritten pages, letters from the grandfather I never knew, a map of a mass grave in Russia, 1942, a battlefield in Poland, 1914. My grandma and her mother never got to lay flowers on their husbands' graves. And we're not the only ones in Germany. It's a pretty typical family saga. And now for something less depressing, I've been invited to participate in a collaborative project with 7 other poets to do a volume on Ozark nature poetry, and it's coming out next month from Corner Post Press. And I'm going to read you some of those. So there's some that are from my collection, but there's some new ones. And some of you, if you're from the Ozarks, you may recognize some of the places. Stopping by Welch Hospital ruin. Barred window holes, giraffe rock walls, field stones irregular in shape and size. Never a tortured place, just clean, moist air, failing lungs, breathing hope from the cool cave. The doctor died, his project crumbled, only ghosts now gasp in the empty shell. The spring still gushes from the underground, choking cold, the water still rushes to swell the river. Orange is the color of joy. The lilies in the field do not toil nor spin. They work the alchemy of blooming, distill sunlight, water, and air into an orange miracle. In ditches and fence rows they flower with abandon, throats open wide. As summer fades, the lilies tire. Willpower cannot halt the wilting of leaves. The lilies retreat to their roots, feed on sugar stores, dream of blossoms, emerge in fierce independence next year. So it is decreed. Landmarks. Fog shrouds the river, dew collects on leaves, rolls off in heavy drops. White asters bloom, the bees buzz nectar dry. Summer hums a drowsy tune. Below the calm green spring, a former mill, a dam, a rusty turbine, traces of human work that mar the landscape. History, a relay of generations. The baton itself changes as it changes hands. Any day you see an eagle is a good day. You can relate to that, so it's funny. I have lost something and I cannot name. I go to the river and wait. Perhaps I will find it. Perhaps I will learn to do without it. I go to the river and wait. I have nothing to do but to pay attention. I will learn to do without the daily clatter and clamor. There is nothing to do but to pay attention. Paying attention is a remedy for the clutter and clamor in my mind. I watch a snail on a lobelia lip. Paying attention is an antidote for apathy and sadness. I watch the snail on the lobelia lip, its translucent shell a perfect spiral, and forget apathy and sadness. The wood duck leads her ducklings close to shore. The snail's shell is a translucent spiral. The ducks weave in and out through the water willows, led by their mother close to shore. An eagle perches on a sycamore. The ducklings hide between the water willows. The eagle sits in silence. He unfolds his wings and lifts off from the sycamore. I have forgotten what I had lost. I saw an eagle, unfolded my grief, found something I cannot name. Pioneer Cemetery. The path is overgrown with river oaks and briars. Few come here. A row of sandstone slabs, tinged green by time, tilted by the weight of decades. No names, no dates, no records of lives faded into history. Only the oaks stand watch, and in the spring, anemones adorn the ground. A forest of gramophones. The lake is a woodcut, black and white, wind-carved, zigzag reflections, the dark silhouette of the far shore. In the shallows, the lotus thrives, water beads on the large round leaves that float, anchored to the muddy bottom. Closer to shore, the stalks rise higher, leaves curl to trumpets, a forest of gramophones playing inaudible music. We only hear the blue jay shriek in the distance and the swish and drip of our paddles. when they had feasted on the abundant fish and preened their plumage with their great beaks, the pelicans took wing over the lake, their sunlit bodies white before the blue, their squadron an undulating ribbon waved by wind, swinging higher and higher and out of sight. Interruption. The birds scatter. A large winged shadow swoops, settles on the dead branch above the feeder. The hawk surveys the field. When he flies off, the branch bounces up and down, long after he's gone, and the chickadees are already back, chirping and chattering as if nothing happened. Oh, that we may so regroup after peril, return again and again to our ordinary lives. Thank you.
Alright, and so our next reader is a very good friend of mine. He spent last night in jacuzzi because he's a fruitful bastard like that. And it sounds wonderful. He's the author of Survival Tips for the Apocalypse. And just a wonderful, wonderful guy, Mr. Shawn Pavey. Kind enough to give me some big waters.
Yeah. I knew somebody would do this.
And Tony told me if everyone's been projecting in this direction, but there's that camera up there, so you don't have to look at it, but if you kind of read in that direction.
Gotcha. All right. Writing micro poems lately, which I find really interesting, the idea of a complete poem in just 2 or 3 lines. So the first one sort of came out of that same conversation that Mr. Baldinger alluded to earlier, where we're all just shaved apes. This is called Surprise Ending. This story begins and ends with monkeys. Some of them are not even me. And this is a new one that just came to me last night in the jacuzzi.
Nice. It's all good.
While you were sipping Crown Royal?
Well, I was sipping Crown Royal, yes, with my pinky up. This is called Marys County, Missouri. At night, road signs spell out the future in the long-forgotten alphabet of snakes. This next poem, every year the Writers' Place in Kansas City, which is this nonprofit organization that is basically just an annex of UMKC and Rockhurst English programs when they don't have enough space to host a reading. They try to say they're about writers and writing, and they try to promote writers and writing. They just promote themselves. Anyway, I'm not bitter. But every year they have a scholarship reading, and they issue a theme, and you're supposed to write a poem about the theme. And one year's it was guilty pleasures, and this is titled "Guilty of No Guilt." You know it in its first measure, and you knew it before reality bit, but it wasn't Winona Ryder dancing in the aisles of a convenience store who had you all worked up, because you knew the song before the 90s, before you were labeled Gen X, when the only labels that mattered were the Nike swoosh on your zip-up hoodie and a Levi's tag on the butt of your jeans, and you would just die if you could witness a single smile on the face of Kendra Murphy as she passed you in the hall between class, but it never happened. And life is so much different now than you ever thought it could be. And the song, when it comes on, compels you to reach for the volume knob on your car radio, because it is the knack, after all. And the rear view mirror vibrates in time with the opening riff, and the woman in the black Lexus in the other lane at the stoplight laughs her ass off as you beat the rhythm on the dashboard with vigor. Oh, my little pretty one, my pretty one. And this last poem is one that I don't read often. It's really a tribute to my love for the work of Lawrence Ferlinghetti. And it's really an homage. I rip off from him blatantly in this poem. Good poets are always better thieves. I am leading a quiet life in my place every day. Oh, by the way, it's titled Autobiography. I am leading a quiet life in my place every day, watching a pride of domesticated lions fight for no good damned reason. I am leading a quiet life on Outlook Street in Mission, Kansas, half a continent away from the town where I was born in Maryland, north of D.C. I am an American. I am white and in the middle class. I am middle-aged and soft around the middle, in the middle of America. I am fair to Midland, as my granddad would say. I have no right to write about race. But I should listen and listen and listen and really hear. I was an American boy. I flunked out of Cub Scouts in the suburbs. I thought I was Han Solo staring at stars on my back in the Great Plains, dreaming of piloting spaceships. I had a baseball mitt but couldn't catch. My Huffy 10-speed took me out of the driveway and on to the gridded streets of Longmont, Colorado, where I rode over every inch of that town and further still to Lyons and across the Foothills Highway to Boulder, and then the flat ride home. I delivered the Daily Times call at 4 in the afternoon and 5 in the morning on weekends. How gray the ink stained my hands, how strong the newsprint scented my clothes, how heavy the weight of the papers I carried as I left our front porch, and how light I felt on the walk home. How that was work, and I came to know it young. I had an unhappy childhood, yet it is hard to remember mixed with the splendor of aspen leaves. I watched rockets on TV and built my own to launch on the football field. I never got caught stealing. I laid sewer pipe in North Carolina summers for $4.75 an hour to pay for college. I went to college where Thomas Wolfe did, and when I look homeward, I don't know what direction to face. I attended 3 different schools by the time I turned 7. I served no army and saw no combat. I worked 3rd shift at a Hilton in Charlotte. I stayed awake all night to balance accounts and plunge toilets. I protested the Gulf War in Lafayette Park. George Bush did not notice me. It goes on a long way. George Bush did not notice me. I marched from the White House to the Capitol steps and at the day's end slept at a Hilton because the room was free. I marched in parades carrying a big bass drum behind the farting trumpeters. I am rereading the portrait of the artist as a young man and my Facebook news feed. I am watching the Kansas City Royals play in the World Series for the second year in a row. I have heard the Ginsburg address and the Victor Smith address. I like it here, and I won't go back where I came from because I cannot decide where that is. I, too, have ridden airlines, bus lines, train lines, and traveled among men and women and never once not been in America. I read the Bible but doubt the flood. I don't know where I was when Rome was built. I have been an ass. I have kissed a girl in a rainstorm and made love in an ocean and watched a sunrise from a mountaintop completely alone. I have wandered lonely in a crowd. I am leading a quiet life in my place every day, watching trees change clothes after dyeing them crimson. I have never set out to walk around the world, but I have run for miles and keep thinking about doing it again. Room weary, I stress. I have unraveled. I have seen Funky Town. I have seen the crass mess. I have heard Stevie Ray Vaughan render. I have heard guitars teach. I have heard Tom Waits in St. Louis. I slept in a starred hotel in Times Square and in a flea trap in Denver. And I know why nobody steals the towels from a Motel 6. I am leading a quiet life in my place every day, reading resumes, trying to fill jobs so rich men can make money, telling machines to tell people what to do. I am the classified section. I sell a dream and I take my cut. My office is at the crossroads. I see another war is coming, and I see we have not finished the last 3. The writing on the wall writes itself these days. Kilroy got that vacation he wanted all this time. I think he took his dog. I stick to the alleys. The streets are not safe. They took away all the Plymouths, the Oldsmobiles, the Pontiacs too. What is a man to drive these days? I have driven the interstates and crossed the Continental Divide and wallowed in the woods of Chapel Hill rebuilding a life. I saw the towers fall on television when I was unemployed and broke. I had a bad feeling. It lasted 8 years. I am too goddamned young to die. I moved to Kansas City for a woman who did not want me. I stayed and found one who does more days than not. I am leading a quiet life in my place every day, contemplating futility and joy. I am a part of the world's quick decline. I have stared at night skies and pastures and through trees. I have written poems that I have burned. I have leaned in drunken doorways. I have sat on rocks. I have suffered and I have loved, and I have sung at full voice all the words to I Want You to Want Me. I have seen the paintings of the Wyeths and Warhol, Rothko, Stanton McDonald Wright, Jackson Pollock and Frida Kahlo, Caravaggio, a Rodin sculpture of a hand thrusting out of a rip in space. I have seen them. I am a man. I am leading a quiet life in my place every day, mowing the lawn and watching leaves change. I will be there when the last leaf falls this year, and it will mean something that I will write down and scratch out for being trite. I will rake the leaves with Donald Hall and have a talk with whatever happens next in its dark and tattered robes and ask it for a favor, you know, just for me, to take its fucking time. Thank you. Thanks, and John, and everybody.
This next gentleman I will see on Monday. He's one of the sweetest, kindest people involved in poetry. It renews my faith in human beings, I swear, sometimes. And he's the author of Lost Questions. My good friend, Jon Freeland. See you, sir.
One of the neatest things is to be able to be known as a sweet person. You know, there's a lot of grit and reality that goes into really relatable poetry. But I think, above all, we struggle the most with processing our own grit. And for someone else to see us as sweet when we may not ever really believe that, I think is pretty awesome. So thank you, John. They said, you know, I'm the author of Lost Field Questions. This is the one book that's just me that I've made. I don't know if I'll ever make another one. We'll see. This one I was actually approached, and that's kind of the way that I prefer to do things, is when people tell me that they want it, then I just kind of throw myself into it. This is another one. This is kind of the latest one that I was in. Roaring Junior Press did an anthology of mythology and monster poetry. So I have two in here, and this is the one that I submitted for the kind of monster side of the anthology. It's called Tall Grass. I can't see you, hidden in the tall grass of rusted fiberglass and windscreen laying in stalk. It's always easier in the blur. That was your mistake. You focused on her. Through the office window, noticed her features and stared. Maybe you thought she cared, or would be scared, or looked like another with long hair and a soft filter unaware. I hear the pads bluntly press, dialing unwanted conversation. Shoulders work and push apart strands like children, hands over their eyes, screaming, "You can't see me," with a careless giggle. Nature knows no time is borrowed, only captured. Slow coyote believe they are safe, inviting themselves to unfamiliar deer. Wolves watch for swaying blades. It's always easier in the blur. I smell your tear. Learn the lesson of tall grass. I'm looking at you without seeing you. This was kind of the mythology side of what I submitted for it. It's called Might Us. Dionysus offered in his gratefulness his broadest test. Somehow, might failed and passed, inheriting the strongest and weakest meaning, receiving the first and last touch. Can you imagine its eyes? Can you feel its chest? Its only worth was the power to invest and all the uncertainty be the price. Misshapen in the mirror at the end of the golden myth, even a golden golem might bathe in Pactolus at night. The clout to carry makes it too heavy to hold. The indecision of caring is a distance of us and golden apples, the pursuit of losing. Either way, gold is ruinous when hunger is choosing. Thank you. I'll read a couple from here and then a couple of new ones that I've been working on. Maple Molly Brown. His bicep cradles the dowel gouge. A homemade animal learning to shave the rough and shape the flame. How it glitters in the fluorescent bars and hides in the leaning lamplight. Appear, disappear. Every degree slightly different in the shape and hands of a skilled maker. It'll sing through the stains of hide glue and varnish, measured twice and cut countless times until imperfection becomes character, and all the work, all the loss, all the curves, all the grafted mistakes from an overzealous maker never changed how much love is in bumbling, hated hands. Unsinkable is a skill the master always had to teach. John, that is a beautiful piece of wood. It was not spruce. It always had waves, never smooth. It marred sawtooth and broken blade, resisting change, but it had never refused. It had waited a lifetime or two just to look at you and me and say, you choose beautiful wood. I understand we have maybe a guest here tonight who is familiar with political circles. I spent some time in that kind of arena myself for a while, about 2.5 years. This was one of the ones that I wrote while I was working on campaigns. It's called Rule of Thumb. When in doubt, don't hurt children. But there were no children. Or if there were, they weren't harmed. Or if they were, we didn't mean for them to be. Or if we did, their parents should have known better than to just stand on the other side of a fence built so far up our southern border that it must plumb have been made to sit on and play thumb war. 1, 2, 3, 4. Children are a heritage from the Lord. 5, 6, 7, 8. Try to keep your story straight. Agnes asked me how my writing's been going lately, and it's been slow. I think it's probably been slower for most people. One of the ones that I've been most proud of lately, and lately is a very relative term. I wrote it in April, but I wrote it for Jason Ryberg. This one's called Blues Healer. Nihilism isn't just a river in Egypt. It is specks on glasses, obstacles that only exist while seeing. It is no accident that the opposite of Orient is Occident. Or is it? Did you know that scars are constantly being rebuilt with collagen? Sailors with scurvy would watch their wounds open because their bodies couldn't keep up. Then there were the limeys. How many eyebrows had to perennially bloom before healthy bitterness stemmed bodily mutiny? What is a poem? Wry grin side-eye beginning 10 o'clock, coffee mocking definition, shockingly not letter of the law. The real question is, what does it do? Does it have to tell the truth? Or is the story better than real? Now that the movie, music, lyric, stadium stars killed the stars. And they blamed Courtney, Yoko, Mary-Kate, Asia, Jada, cocaine, whiskey, pride. I didn't know you were an academic. Like Midwest Paddington, he adjusted a purposely crooked brim, and his smile belies the swagger drawl in a long time ago. Like low organ drone in the corner of Barb's, memories of the dusty setting button depression, how it shut like grandma's old Wurlitzer, otherwise silent. lids mostly closed, listening to red-eye spoken pictures. And I realize that you need lies to spell lines. Dirty hands tell the best stories, and mine can't help but thumb bleed so they can mend. Thank you. Recently had a vacation in St. Louis with my son and wife, and I wrote this one kind of based around some of our experiences. It's called 8X. In Midtown, we settled down to egg, surrounded by broken parking, sparking original fires, frying a news tart. Fusion art fills the walls, permutations of language, like what gave us normal and abnormal, measuring right angles and monsters. It also hid behind original and aboriginal, at their core passively shrugging the violent e-conversational system, where the apex hover over others, living out loud. Miramax Joe is a sculpture of stone interest, soaking the proprietor's tales, chorizo in yolk, amniotic mourning. Lasad smiles himself back to the kitchen. Somehow, we are all in season. Thank you. This one I wrote for the first transgender woman to play professional disc golf. Her name is Natalie Ryan. Contact warning if anybody has any self-harm issues. Speaks about it a little bit. It's called Masochism. I play this game because I'm not supposed to. Because I'm inconsistent. Because I wish to be the cause for easier bridges and self-kindness. It's far too hard to say, do unto others, in a molten golden veneer, when it's, fuck me, you piece of shit, you'll never be worth anything underneath. Who can understand when we're waist deep in this? Muscle has nothing to do with it. Only how we can spin a truth into something self-serving. No pain, no gain, and you can't see how mental micro-tears connect and rip apart life. Long focus, the trophy she carved out of the only flesh no one could see. The only flesh they keep fucking talking about. Fascinatingly, we put the facet in facetious. Our arguments are rhinestone diamonds, holding our focus so clean-cut, sharp, desperately carefree, or careless? I watched the man through beiging glass, abrogating so much jade dust that it looked plastic. His hands agate, millimeters from the solitary bit spinning at fingerless speed to grind priceless wonders for his dinner. At 22, my money bought so much in his country that I could afford to judge their liberty. Proud I wasn't forced to be so skilled for so little. Over a decade has passed since then, and we are having more nuanced conversations. Gunpowder talking to each other across town. It'll bleed like Jesus before it bleeds like women. Litigating love over rape, hindering health rather than violence. Never the violence. We play violence, orchestrated in dying color, huddling in the boom, Julying to ourselves. How come no one is ever described as care more? I'll do two more. This one's called Cross the Line. Phil phoned, 11 p.m. in the morning, and my shirtless bedhead answer to, "You working? It's Good Friday," was a silent rewind. I still had deadlines to cross. Congregation littered 54 with PVC pipes fitted crossways, wide smiles, and waving dealership arms, insisting sold salvation was free. Lining up in folding chairs and coffee, redefining median. They did and did not take the day off. Schrodinger's cat in Pandora's box. God's gift of baptism maligning the world right up to the point when the rain started. Then they left their lines. This is called Blanket. I wrote it. I have a cat named Blake. She's a little black cat. There is a desert in her eyes, veiny dunes and black sliver moons ever moving. Corporeal or corporal punishment. She believes we were never meant to see our shadows. In bed, there is only reflection. Under, not even color. But on the brightest afternoons, hair still grows from her toes and fingers, threatening roots and thorns. So shift, turn tail up, then down, the furthest near, asymptotic touch, barrel rolling desk edges like strafing her fears in the anti-light of columns. What could be more fierce than confronting order where it hides? The floor is lover, table no man's land. Lap is base, or some euphemistic carrot like value-based purchasing. Campaigning in Pandora's litter box, even Rommel knew deserted foxes have no choice. Are we independently against independence? Have I tautology you nothing? Her sands shift to me, oil-needy engine rumbling, a furry timepiece interrupting. Gentle strands escape her atmosphere for scratching. She watches until they become smaller than a blink. The smartest of us all. Thank you.
Next person I'm going to bring up, I think came the second longest distance of anyone. He was supposed to be here earlier in the summer, but we are so lucky to have him here today. He was the co-curator of Meet Me with Curiosity in Dallas, Texas at Clive Ward Park. He was also a curator for Pandora's Box, and has hosted a number of readings at King Bookstore. He's worked with presses such as Klepchaw and Spartan Press, and we're just such good friends. And as he likes to say, we met at a burlesque show in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 2014, and that is completely true. And he was kind enough to give me all of his drink tickets and ply me with whiskey. It's my good friend, Paul Koniecki.
Thank you, OAC. Thanks, Barb's Books. Appreciate you having us.
You're welcome.
So, John, between that story and Jason, you inspired me. Oh, and how about a round of applause for all the poets that have come before me today? Just incredible. Awesome stuff. So I switched up which poem I want to share with you first. It was a weird night. MJ Taylor and I were reading at a burlesque show, and you'd think that'd be about as weird as it could get, doing poetry in a burlesque house. And the reading was stranger and stranger from there. But I met John, and I said to myself, I've got to reach out and let that guy know what my poems are really like. And through him, I've had so many amazing experiences, like meeting my wife, that this poem that I sent him the next day when I got back to Dallas couldn't mean more to my whole world and such a great friendship that Jon and I have. It's called Landfill 78, Timmy's song. Roger was a soldier once. He liked to take his friends to topless bars. I thought it meant those establishments had outdoor seating. If ever I have twin daughters, I'll name them Cain and Abel. It reminds me of the military alphabet, although I think I'll change the spelling. My father had a cane for show he called a walking stick. I didn't understand Monty Python, but I wanted to Monty Python the tendons in his neck. Chasing abstractions like Beauty and Dumb, legend stated Roger liked to rub his penis on urinal ceramic. I thought cigarette smoke looked like a girl. Talking to the longest evening of the year, all the men smoked. It was a billion flowers, it was an alien invasion, it was an octopus on fire. In the store shop window glass, the orange tips of their cigarettes looked like fireflies in the mason jar of fog. Courage was a wrestler, and her lips were like a graveyard, and her hair was like the sun. I was a distance runner, cross country, breaking miles longer than 8th grade girls' legs in shoeless winter snow. Roger liked to chase me short distances, to the bedroom and the bathroom and his cane. When he beat me, he called me dumb. His cough followed his laughter like a backhoe in a landfill, or in the beauty of the lighting of a Pall Mall cigarette. Brick red package, brick red face, brick red heart, stale thunder and warm beer, hot lightning and cold blood. My father's name was Roger, and in the army, that meant yes. Y'all were gracious enough to have my wife up to read last month, and I'm gonna go completely off script. I found a poem that Shawn Pavey picked, that I've never read before in public, that Shawn Pavey picked for an anthology, and you just have to believe me when I tell you this is about someone that came many, many, many years before my wife, in case she sees this recording. Hawaii has a state prison. We made love and I couldn't come, honestly. Michelangelo hit a real heart inside the Pieta. I wanted your new man to be amazing. The donor's name is lost in time. Your new man is terrible. I stitched my lips closed with blue thread. If only you had told me, I could have been terrible too. Thank you, Shawn. So I had a really strange year. I got to finally leave the corporate world, and before I started teaching, routines are important when you're unemployed, so every day I would take my wife to the school she teaches at, that we now both teach at, and I would stop at this little 7-Eleven, and I remember back to when I was doing some poetry in Ireland, and they voted as a country, the kind of thing we should do in America more, what's your favorite Irish poem? And of course they picked W.B. Yeats, and they picked I'm Going to the Isle of Innisfree. And somehow this 7-Eleven, maybe the poem will show us. A moment of noise for all the things circling around in here I still don't understand. Hungry and turning into my regular gas station parking lot, I see the self-anointed peanut butter man begging by rolling up his sleeve for another semi-captive customer, absent-mindedly filling their tank, to expose the half-kickball-sized tumor that was once the topography of a right-sized left forearm. And I feel my heart and my stomach cry out like a burning mouth. What good is a store of convenience that stops inviting you in? Smelling a riptide of wieners and taquitos, I roll like his emerald Schwinn, or a wave toward the ketchup and the salsa and the idea of restrooms in perdition or on the moon. Fleeting our eyes meet, fighting connection in the lure of cheese whiz. Across the tarmac of the evening, there are a million grackles, blackbirds, grackles at the 7-Eleven tonight. A cloud of anti-stars erupts from the wetland of my scream, silage to sustenance. The sausage burning in the back is a forefinger, tracing letters in the air to illuminate light and shadow. Cracks reaching for the underworld, the rabbit skylarks trying to crack a secret code, or diesel pumps burning the roof of my mouth, salty and high as a geyser of spume in a painting titled Sea. allowing a talking bun to be my boatman guide. It chooses the one for me, a pristine example of junk food incarnate. This celestial hot dog on its galaxy's tip, its silver-edged gas station carousel, tongs oil sore as gumption and spree, has realized, while moving too hot again to my mouth, this convenience store, this green, white, orange, plastic on plastic, Innisfree, is the last broken seal in the universe, measuring everyone for final scenes. As we run for the birds, inadvertently we run for reassignment. Humans, carbon dioxide, trees, oxygen, reality in a whirl like invisible feather boas in a slumber party about lineups and identity, crossing the rainbow-colored height markings glued to the frame of the door. Thanks for the peanut butter man. This next one, I may be Polish, and I was fascinated to read that while Russia was occupying Poland and Marie Curie was at that college age, she had to go to these secret universities called floating or flying universities just for the opportunity to get together like we are hidden away in a little spot and share information. So this is floating or flying university. Mr. Bandittini, our 10th grade social studies class teacher, an old Jesuit from Marquette who was always saying things like, "There'll be time enough to sleep when you're dead," at well over 6 feet tall with steel pad eyebrows large enough to fly coach and know Vince Lombardi's middle name. That day he pulled me aside to show me books about the secret traveling libraries of Warsaw and the illegal classes Marie Curie attended under Russian occupation. I wasn't sure if he had a soft spot for Poles or thought I should start experimenting with truancy. When, like a city at war, the clouds over the gymnasium turned back and back again, circling, silent as an anti-bell, and the light shrank drunk on ominous foretelling, mimicking heartbeats in danger the way a violin solo signals trouble in a movie. As I saw bowl cut Timmy being cornered by Kellenhofer, the kid at school voted most popularly avoided if you ever wanted to eat dinner again. With holes for eyes I knew well, and a ring with the corona of spikes he kept sharpened on a rasp the size of a 4th of July sparkler. So if you saw him alone, you already knew who was king. Shooing bowl cut Timmy on down the silver slip of sidewalk safety, Kellenhofer and I found each other alone, and I found what it would take to make him abdicate the throne, even if only for a secret fleeting half an hour. Even as I swore inside to someday grow Bandittini eyebrows, hoping against hope when it happened again, maybe they could catch half of the blood. Like Marie Curie studying in a time when being caught at any school meant certain death. Like me actually telling someone the stitches I catch at home are born of a type of occupation and a kind of study too. Hey, trigger warning, I was shot with a pellet gun, but I'm here and I lived. Averaging the mean. In one version, he is the final butterfly, flesh now boxed and on display with complimentary mat or matching sleeping bag. Caterpillar cocooned, pillowed where to sleep is to escape, breathing gulps of tattered, useless air, his heart burning, another type of crimson, silent, flameless moth. In the alternate reel, I see a shirtless boy, maybe 5 or 6 in the evening by the fire, graham cracker, marshmallow, vacant, downcast, chocolate bar eyes, check. And a tent plus adults, could be dad, promising s'mores, campground, bug spray, fire pit, check. Forest as background, dark as the night is alive, check. Mom in the shadows waiting for justice and wine, cold flickering, we all hold our breath alone. Until the waiting boy's father shoots him in the shoulder with a pellet gun. Pain substitution, he says, like drawing blood from the throbbing lobe of a virgin's ear. You're so soft, I told you to duck. It's still in there. Don't say anything if I can't get it out. After hours or before, the sky is a cold and burning slap. A firefly notices torsos fuse the way toasted puffs and melting Hershey's meet. The fireside sandwich lets loose a dozen golden crumbs like stars. He understands the pellet's desire to hide. A Swiss Army knife opens with a kinch. Box broken, the butterfly is free, pins sticking in its wings and stuck like silver lashes to its eyes. Because, you know, fucking if you can't do some revenge poetry. All right. Luchador Press out of Kansas City was nice enough to do this book of circus poems that I did with the great poet Christopher Soden. And the half that he wrote are all persona poems for the human marvels who were the stars of the show. And I'm going to share one of his with you here in just a second. My half, I struggled for a long time because I said, Christopher, everybody loves American Horror Story, but how are we not just going to be voyeuristic and gawking? And what's my on-ramp? What's my moment of empathy? How do I get into the story for my half of the poems? And luckily for all writers, when you find someone who is real but very little is known about. And so in my half, I write as the mother of a man who really lived named Adam Rayner. Adam Rayner we know very little about other than until he was 18, he was under 3.5 feet tall. So he was an adult little person. And then between 18 and 20, he grew to over 7 feet tall. So he was an adult giant and the only person we have on record who was both an adult little person and an adult giant. So my half of the poems are, well, I was wondering if all my kids were going to come back during the coronavirus, and how to help and how to be a parent, and what Adam's mother, should he place him in the circus with these other human marvels. So first I'm going to read one by Christopher Soden called Lobster Boy. My Jewish buddy Sam used to joke I could wreck a Hasidic wedding just by showing up, and let me tell you, nothing like a friend to keep you chuckling through the rough times. I guess it's no blinding revelation that the key to surviving this dark, dark ride is salvaging your power to detach, to laugh when they gasp at your pincers, or when you light a smoke, or remove your shirt. Maybe tonight I will find a dance hall bathed in cool, forgiving darkness, except for Christmas lights twinkling like cheap grace, where moonlight serenade floats the air, where a sweet, tender girl might grant me a turn without noticing or caring I am a crustacean in disguise. Night after night I read Richard III, envy him, his cynicism, his audacity, his contempt for idiots who only see his gnarled spine, his benign demeanor. Imagine the sack it must have taken to seduce the widow of the man you murdered. One day I will say goodbye to my terror, my cowardice. I will silently glide among them, sliding my hungry knife between their ribs, like you would prepare a fat hen for supper. That's Christopher Soden's Lobster Boy from Terrible Grace. As you could sense from some of the other poems I shared, I didn't have great parents, to say the least. And so they told me in the hospitals that what I was trying to do was reparent. So it's really even a very interesting dynamic between Adam and the mother that I write at, and maybe a little bit of that comes out here. This is titled Fair Day, or To the River with My Little Fish. We came to the circus grounds by small train, not a toy in the forest, but the fog swaddled everything. Between galena, tinctured arms of trees branching to smaller fingerlings and capillaries of damp brown hair, on the steam engine swam. Adam and I, immersed in it, on the frontmost wooden bench, holding hands, I whispered, this is where the royals of divergent evolution reside. God has many plans, and we are two of them. Better to see the fault in others and the beauty in ourselves. Deformity is where and how the magic enters in.
Oh, Koniecki.
Yeah.
Boom, boom,
You
boom,
had me
boom.
thinking because you mentioned like how you met Reverie because we had met, and I just remember I was staying at Reverie's house, and you were kind enough to bring us that bag of like 50 corn tamales.
Those beautiful tamales.
Yeah, and there had been no food in this house, and you came like a hero with
So we did this tremendous 2-day show on first night at an incredible Prospero's type bar bookstore, and then the second night at this community meetup place where they cooked us tacos till 3 in the morning. And John thinks I was just being a great and sweet guy by bringing the tamales, but he got put up by this writer that I didn't really know, but I'm like, she's so amazing, my heart won't stop beating. So I wanted to bring all the tamales to look impressive like I was a good guy. And to this day, I'm still trying to appear.
it worked. It worked.
Too much truth.
I remember that, we had like 8 people I was traveling with, and she was like, "Oh, I could put up 8 people," and I'm like, "What person could put up 8 people?" So, and then I got to go to your wedding as a result. The only bookstore where I've been able to drink a mimosa, like, wonderful.
Hilariously, she put you up with her ex, but somehow I
Yes,
blocked out the
yes.
fact that I was still living with someone and she was still living with someone. When we started going out, I just, sometimes you just...
Well, I'll tell you what, they had a lovely home.
Yes.
That's all I'll say, in an empty refrigerator. But, all right. So with
This
that,
is before the days of Grubhub.
with that, I'm going to welcome up our next reader, who has never been here to Barb's books. But before I do that, I want to say Paul came from Dallas, Texas. So just give a round of applause for driving from Dallas to be here in one day. See, again, we're still trying to be a wonderful guy, and it works. It's working.
Oklahoma, why do you exist?
Why at all?
Terrible.
Our next reader has never been here at Barb's Books. I saw her read at Spine in St. Louis, which if you have not been there, it has become a bit of a hotbed for regional local talent. Reverie read there. She had a great time. She was fantastic. It's a great store. Actually, it's a great cafe. I won't say it's a great bookstore. This is a great bookstore. But to cast aspersions. But so our very next reader I thought was lovely. I thought she was the best reader I heard the evening that we met. And I just would like to welcome up the author of Authenticity, Lesley Day. Lesley.
Thank you guys, and thanks for inviting me down here. Alright, so I'm going to be reading from my book, Authenticity. This first poem is called Functional. My depression isn't the debilitating kind. I don't lie in bed all day or cry myself to sleep. I don't even dread getting out of bed because I don't dread anything. I don't cut off contact with the world or hide away in my reclusive cave. My depression is functional. I am consistently a functional human being every single day. And a lot of days I'm actually even quite productive. My depression is so functional that sometimes I convince myself it isn't even real. It doesn't actually exist. Not really. Depression is the only thing that makes me out to be a liar. I lie. I lie to myself and I lie to everyone around me. I lie because it's functional and it's something that's easy to mask. But if I were to be honest with you and with myself, I would tell us this. Whatever part inside of me that is the vibrance of who I am, the part that feels passion, happiness, hell, even the part that feels pain, the part of me that craves adventure, thirsts for death, and has an unyielding lust for life, whatever part that is, it sometimes becomes the vehicle that's driving through a thick cloud of fog. And no matter how hard you squint your eyes and adjust your lights, nothing is ever clear. So you drive in what feels like slow motion until you finally break through the wall of fog that has temporarily blocked your view. My depression is the inside of my mind having Kelly green walls that have been muted to sage. I hate sage and beige and anything resembling a muted color. Those colors don't belong on my walls. You know what the colors of my walls are? Like not my figurative walls, my actual real life walls. They have fun names like Cantaloupe and Cotton Candy Pink. And I don't remember the cool name my aqua walls have, but they're aqua all the same. And then of course I have my Kelly green. The colors of my actual walls doesn't really matter though, when the figurative walls of my mind are muted sage. My depression is controlled claustrophobia. You know it's there. You recognize its presence. You feel the itch of panic tingle on your skin, but you will yourself to breathe and tell yourself you will be okay. You don't allow yourself to scratch the itch because it will only make it spread. My depression isn't an always. It's more of a sometime. But sometimes can last quite a long time. And when it does, I don't really feel like I'm living. Not real living. Not the living I want to be living. Because the part of me that matters most becomes a foggy, muted version of controlled claustrophobia. But my depression is functional. You don't see it. So therefore, it isn't real. This next one is called She Comes at Night, and this one is about my love-hate relationship with insomnia that I have dealt with since I was 16. I love it because that's when I'm the most creative and most of my poems happen, but I hate it because, yeah, you don't sleep.
I fell in love with John when he told me insomnia is the longest form of time travel. Sorry.
I love that. No. All right, this one is called She Comes at Night. I have come to the realization that I have an enemy I've come to love, an enemy I miss when she leaves me, an enemy that hides her toxicity under the guise of lust. Her name, insomnia. You know how that saying goes, keep your friends close but your enemies closer? Well, that's how I finally figured it out. You see, insomnia always keeps me close. So close, at times it's hard to cope. You know how when you lay your head down on a pillow at night and within minutes you drifted off to sleep? I lay my head down on a pillow at night and that's when I come awake. I toss, I turn, I'm hot and cold, my foot bounces up, down, my legs shift back and forth, and I vaguely remember those commercials. You know, the ones about RLS. And I'm angry. I'm angry I can't find sleep as I stumble through the endless depths of restlessness. But then something changes. Insomnia is beguiling. She knows her way in because she knows what I want. She knows what turns me on. She softly caresses my mind, molding it into something she knows I desire. It becomes a train racing down the tracks into the darkness of the tunnels where my dreams live. The conscious, soul-aching dreams I crave. The ones that come alive in the wake of her existence. She injects their vitality in my veins and watches with fascination as they consume my soul. Isn't it strange that it's the dreamers that rarely sleep? Insomnia plays the friend part well, for when she's in my bed at night, she inspires me and wrenches my most authentic self free. She feeds me a lack of sleep that triggers my creative switch. Clever thoughts I form into lines of poetry. My best work happens when she's lying down beside me. She gives me jolts of energy and fills me with something that seems a whole lot like motivation. She wakens my mind and gives me insights to new perspectives. She's the drug I've come to crave, for I feel the most alive when she is living inside. The problem is, insomnia always overstays her welcome. And just like a drug, eventually she leaves me feeling strung out. Someone once told me a human being could only survive 3 days without sleep. I called them a liar and told them I'd lasted more than a week and never slept a wink. But in that time I'm riding a high, aware that at some point that high will capsize. The energy starts to taper off, becoming something more like madness. Thoughts are no longer clever and they make less and less sense as the days drag on. My mind is foggy and overworked. I'm drowning as I gasp for sleep. I'm sinking, waiting for unconsciousness to save me. Eventually, unconsciousness will show his face and I'll drift off to sleep. But when I awake, I'll find myself wishing insomnia would come back to see me. This next one is called Restless. I love life, and I am happy. In almost every way, I am content. And yet, I am restless. There is a fire burning inside that will not be tamed, a thirst that will not be quenched, screaming thoughts that will not quiet themselves. I am restless, restless for life. Not the life I see everyone living, but the life of my imagination. I'm ready for imagination to become what is real and real to become a memory. I have this overwhelming urge to see things I've never seen, go places I've never gone, and do things I've never done. I want to see the beautiful, but also see the ugly. I want to go where life is easy, but also where life is hard and broken. I want to climb a mountain. I want to sail a boat. I want to dive in the depths of the ocean and jump from a plane as I float through the sky. I want to be a pirate. Can I please? At least for one day? I can't list everything I want to do because I want to do it all. I want adventure. I want experience. I want to be utterly exposed. I want passion, not mere satisfaction. I want to taste life in all of its flavors and choke on the endlessness of everything it has to offer. I am more than what you see. Hell, I am more than what I am. I was created for more than average, so average I will not accept. I'm done with the ordinary. Throw me into the extraordinary. The next one is called Nothing More Than a Prick. In my room there is a shelf, and on that shelf sits a long row of distorted storybooks, written for my eyes and my eyes alone. Every line of every page dripping with the scrawled ink of a hand in motion. They're filled with the hopes and dreams that poured from my mind, pain and fear that bled from my fingertips, stained sheets of who I was and who I have become. I still remember the first thing I ever wrote. It was about my first broken heart, or at least what my 14-year-old mind perceived as heartbreak. I read all my stories a while back, and there were a lot of words masquerading as heartbreak in the pages of my early days. A lot of those pages caused me to cringe, like I cringe when hearing someone write with chalk, or the sound foam mixes scrapes against the sides of a cardboard box, or even the thought of a nail file coming in contact with a nail. I cringed. It wasn't the writing itself that caused me to cringe, but more so the words I chose to write. It was so damn dramatic. I knew nothing of love, and I certainly knew nothing of pain. I still remember the streams of tears that flowed and the sick feeling that kicked up his feet and made a home in the pit of my stomach while I wrote those words. I remember hating that feeling. I remember wishing I could feel anything other than the heavy stones that weighed down my heart and gut. Who knew the flowing streams of tears in reality were only puddles? Who knew the stones that weighed me down were only tiny pebbles? Who knew I would one day envy feeling so strongly over something so trivial? I no longer feel as a normal person should feel. I no longer experience pain in the same way. My senses have been dulled down like the knife in my careless hands that slides across my finger but doesn't break the skin because it lost its sharpness long ago. And just like the knife that doesn't cut, I'm surprised at the lack of feeling when someone tears open my soul. I'm surprised at the lack of blood on the cutting board. I've turned their weapons into useless utensils. They're incapable of causing me pain. The stones I swallowed feel less than a pebble. And the rivers, they no longer flow. I can't even muster a mere puddle. My eyes have become tiny deserts that thirst for a drop of water to hydrate their barren ground. But the sun continues to blaze and the rain stays far away. I have cried vast oceans. I've been crushed and buried by mountains. I've been sliced and cut till I was a bloody mess. I've tasted hell. I've seen the devil face to face. He shattered my windows and entered my home. He's poured his flame straight down my throat, and I choked on the black smoke as the fire melted me from the inside out. No, I no longer feel pain as I should. It is now only a pinprick to my skin. Alright, this is going to be my last one, and it's called I've Been Here Before. Sitting across from you while you're dressed in matching green, listening to the sound of your voice stringing together a long line of words that doesn't make an ounce of sense. Time, date, day, time, date, day. What's your name again? I try to find you, but you don't seem to be home. I've been here before, only it wasn't you, it was him. I've already heard the nonsensical ramblings of a mind that didn't belong. I've seen the vacancy sign flicker in a pair of eyes I no longer recognize. I've been here before, and it strikes a chord inside, one that's connected to the notes of fear and dread. They're deafening as they course through the blood in my veins. 'Cause you see, I've been here before, And it wasn't exactly here, but it was there. And it wasn't exactly your eyes, your words, your voice rambling incomprehensible nonsense. It was his. It's all just a little too familiar, though. When I see vacant eyes and hear the voice of nonsense, it makes her remember all too well. You weren't there, but he was. And his hand was wrapped around the stock of the pistol with his index finger resting on a trigger, all connected to the barrel that pressed against my head. And in his other hand, he held the knife that glistened in my line of sight. Now I know that wasn't you, and I'm not saying that's what I think you'll do, but eyes, looks, words, tone of voice, and the rambles of a mind that is temporarily not your own triggers something inside. I see it flash before my eyes, only this time, he's not the one in my line of sight, it's you. And you may not be using the same mechanics he did, but your intent and action is the same. You want to hurt me, and you coming at me is what flashes before my eyes. Now I'm not so far gone from reality that I think that this is actually happening. I'm aware it's just an illusion caused by something along the lines of PTSD. I'm even able to realize that my thoughts may be irrational. But my body, well, she's a fool. And she thinks the illusion is reality. She trembles with the fear of staring death in the eye. And you see, I know what comes next. Because remember, I've been here before, and what comes next scares me too because you're someone that I love. I'm still here, which means he obviously didn't pull that trigger. His eyes flipped the switch from vacancy to occupied, and they saw his wife with the barrel of a pistol pressed to her head, and he saw the hand that was holding the pistol was connected to the arm that was connected to the man that was himself. That's when he walked in the other room and shot himself. I've been here before. And I can't go back there again.
All right, this next gentleman's going to give me the opportunity to yell. Jason Ryberg, are you over there?
Lesley,
I'm forever yelling at you. All right, get yourself up here. You were on a full stomach, man. You had a big breakfast. Oh, there it is. All right.
Get on my stage.
Of course.
I've competed enough with traffic in my life.
Traffic won.
But, man, we need the airflow.
You can just handle it for a few minutes now.
I thought you were about to do a Three Stooges routine.
I thought that's what was going on.
I'm a one-man Three Stooges routine. Still life of butterfly perched on clenched fist. Or, how's this for first thought, best thought, part 1? Woke up from a dream about something that seemed really important while it was happening. After having fallen asleep apparently in front of a fire in the backyard, only to suddenly wake lost inside a prairie blizzard of fortune cookie fortunes, only to suddenly wake again sitting upright in a rowboat that must have followed the moon out to sea while I was sleeping. Again, apparently, only to bolt awake once more to a phone ringing and a strange voice on the other end asking me what my fortune said. Whereupon I woke, finally, for real this time, I think, in front of a pile of glowing embers, with the urgent, frantic need to write down whatever it was that had come to me at the ground zero epicenter inner onion eye of all these layers of dreams. But all I could recover from the ocean floor refuse of it all was something about a butterfly perched on a clenched fist, closed around a handful of fortune cookie fortunes. Hell, I don't know. Maybe it was a silver dollar or an earring. Maybe it was nothing. A guided tour of the seemingly banal. This old hat has been a home to many heads that have hung heavy with woe. This bottle has only a few golden swallows of summer left in it. Drink up. This tin cup sitting on this cracked and mossy headstone is somehow never empty of shadows. This cowbell swinging in the wind from a barbed wire fence, has been silenced by the waddle and daub of an empty wasp's nest. This rickety chair was forced to sit facing the corner for being naughty and disobedient in a previous life. This hobo patchwork rag bag is stuffed with the names of things that no longer exist for good reason. Probably best not to open it. This is an old 78 record of a forgotten poet whistling an unrecognizable tune in an empty theater that burned down mysteriously decades ago. This sad and lonesome tuba, always the fat kid of musical instruments, languishing for 20 years in a pawn shop window, its memories of high school marching bands having mostly faded away, still dreams of one day sitting in with Tom Waits. This matchbox once belonged to a famous blues or rockabilly singer they say could carry everything he owned. This dollhouse has a shy, tiny ghost that haunts its attic. This is a closet full of skeletons. This is a drawer full of skeleton keys. This is a receipt for Chinese takeout, folded into an origami unicorn. If you look close enough, you can see scrawled there the number for a phone booth by the side of a lonely stretch of Arizona highway. They say every now and then, when the proper cosmic components are properly aligned and at play, someone will answer. Good fun. Let's step into the dead center of some old country crossroads one hot and starry night. After drinking too much moonshine and challenge the gods or ghosts of your ancestors to a fight just for something to do. Let's put the torch to the master's crops tonight and call him out to his front porch and dare that old motherfucker to do something about it. Let's you and me put on our Sunday bests, get some flowers and a heart-shaped box of candy and go a-courtin'. You take trouble and I'll take bad luck. Because bad luck is better than no luck, and trouble is just good fun. Evening report, 8/7/2021, 9:17 p.m. Just a few scattered stars here and there, though I suppose the stars are always there. Night or day, as well as always rushing away from us and each other, they say, towards some ever-receding frontier or event horizon like moment of maximum elasticity, when the whole thing has spread out about as far as it can to one uniform temperature and consistency, and slowly begins to contract and reverse engineer itself back into a condensed and combustible state that's ready for another big bang. Cell phone. It is lifeline, shackle, and passive-aggressive miscommunicator. Stone tablet and tracking device. Safety blanket, courtesy wake-up call, and rude awakening. Compass and pathfinder, babysitter and adult pacifier, voice of the oracle, zeitgeist, hive mind, and messenger, oftentimes bearing the burden of bad news that we dare not put to the sword or boot or throw from a bridge or window of a moving car, but oh, wouldn't it feel so damn good?
Yes. I don't know, Jason. I think I take that hook back. I take it back.
Open the door, John.
Yeah, that's true. We should open that door. All right. Okay, the next person I am going to call up is I'm going to tell you about an upcoming event that she has going on before she starts to read, because there will be an event next Saturday that will not be here at Barb's Books, but she can talk to you about that. Belle's very own Caitlin Jones. Caitlin.
Thank you, John. Next Saturday at the Osage County Library, we are having a Missouri author meet and greet. There will be just over 15 authors now. We've had a few people who've had to back out, who will be there with their books for sale to meet them, to talk to them, and then we will have a 2-hour reading post meet and greet. There will be meatballs. I bought them on Wednesday. I got you covered, John. I got you covered. I got the meatballs. But there will be a reception type food, drinks, non-alcoholic, I believe. So, you know, if you can come, we would appreciate you coming. Also, if you are an author and would like to fill one of the empty spots that we have now, because we had to cap it at 20, I'd love to have you. Specifically, I am somebody over here who I felt like was in my head the whole time she was reading. I was like, I'm gonna have to hit up the ATM because I need that book in my life.
Caitlin, I've secretly been getting people to drop out so there'll be more meatballs.
I should have known it when Victor came up to me and was like, I don't know. Oh, John. I knew it.
Meatball agreed.
All
My
he cares about
pockets
is
will be
meatballs.
full of meatballs.
Okay, so I'm going to start by reading a piece out of this book. This is my first compilation called Deep Breaths. It's published by Happy Duck Publishing, which was Ed and Eva Gillert here in Belle, now out of Los Angeles, I suppose. So we missed them, but I was happy to be able to do this project with them before they left. So I'm just going to read the title piece, because as a friend back over here reminded me, maybe I needed to come here today to kind of get out of my own head. So this is called Deep Breaths. Deep breaths. Allow your lungs to fill and then release, expelling it with all worries and stress trivial to the mind, allowing for clarity of thought, and in doing so, the weight will begin to lift. Deep breaths. You are the only one who can take care of you, so do it. No one else can feel what you are feeling, and you must be your own advocate. Tell those around you that you need help or a listening ear, or that something is wrong. We're here for you. Deep breaths. It is never not going to be a chore, but reminding oneself to breathe is the first step. Breathe through the stress, through the worry, through the fear, through the anxiety and darkness, because nothing is put in front of you that you cannot handle, even when it requires help. Deep breaths, because without those deep intakes of breath, the world around you seems to collapse, just like your lungs without oxygen. Thoughts not worth thinking begin to creep into your mind and can lead to catastrophic consequences. Do not allow this to happen. The world without you in it is a world not worth thinking about. Tricks of the mind will tell you that no one would even know you were gone. That's complete bullshit. We love you and we're here by your side even when you think you're alone. So when those thoughts come creeping over you like demons from the depths of darkness, remember, deep breaths. Take one breath and then another, and keep doing it until it becomes routine. Those demons that you believe are your only friends will be replaced with the people who are your friends. And with each breath you take, they will stand next to you like the steel barrier they are, forged in love, to hold that darkness at bay. And then just because I really like this one and it's kind of an anniversary for this piece, I've read it a lot, so the regulars around will recognize it. I'm going to read Fuck Cancer. Fuck cancer. A limitless mutation of enemies ready to declare war on the unsuspecting, targeting indiscriminately first the 55-year-old man who never touched a cigarette the day in his life, but now has hostile tumors waging war in his lungs. Then the 26-year-old mother of two undergoing her 4th brain surgery to remove the glioblastoma, trenching its way through her motor skills, eradicating first the short-term and then the long-term memory. Neither will win the war, but will fight with the tenacity of battle-scarred veterans, each fight delivering just a little more time, and when they can fight no more, they will wave their middle finger as a declaration of defiance, not surrender. But cancer is a devious devil. It doesn't stop its assault there. Like a landmine having been triggered upon their death, The shrapnel tears through whole families, leaving wounds that will never heal. So fuck cancer for everything it takes. The laughter, the joy, the memories now covered in a haze of grief, the people remembered for their absence, and the futures promised that never had a chance against such a formidable foe. And one more thing. Fuck big pharmaceutical too, stonewalling a cure for a bottom line still higher than the hopes of those with dying loved ones. I've had a lot of cancer in our family, and they all hit at the same time, which is right around this time of year, so thank you for letting me share that again. The next few that I want to share are actually some new ones. This one I actually wrote right before I came over here, so it's new. We'll see how it goes. This is called Early Midlife Crisis or Delayed Teenage Rebellion. Call it a midlife crisis or a delayed teenage rebellion. Whatever you want to call it is fine by me. It feels more like a sledgehammer to the internal mental wall between who I am and who I let others perceive. Each new hole may show as an outward rebellious choice, but to me, it's blue hair, tattoos, different clothes, and a transformation into a more authentic self.
Yeah.
The tattoos are coming. I don't have them yet, but they're coming.
Hurry.
I have a consult. It's scheduled. I got it. The next one I want to read is called Drifting Across the Rumble Strip. The two-lane highway is empty, just me and freshly chip-sealed asphalt and my own thoughts. Empty highways are dangerous like that. Being allowed to think alone is as dangerous as driving. Today would be a good day to just drive away, far away, to disappear into the ether, leaving everything behind. The car drifts from line to line as those thoughts distract me from the task of driving. Nobody would know if I just left. I could leave the worries, the stress, the pain behind, and just start over. That's not how life works. You have people you have to care for. There's a new baby who you haven't yet to meet. There are cats at home waiting hungry who wouldn't understand why you didn't show up. And that's just not how life works. And just like that, I correct the wheel across the rumble strip and continue to drive the same way I've done so many times before. This one's called Cheat Codes. I'm a little bit of a gaming nerd, so hopefully you guys remember old-time games and how those cheat codes work. There are no cheat codes in life. You can't press up, up, down, right bumper, left bumper, start, and miraculously jump to level 21, bypassing all of the step work. Life requires that you put in that work. You figure out how to roll, run, punch, scratch your way through the levels. Sometimes you'll just have to go back to the last save point, and sometimes you're going to fall into that never-ending pit and need to be airlifted back to a safe zone. But if you don't play, you can't win, and if you cheat, you've already lost. No, I think that's it. I'm not gonna show that one. Thanks.
Thank you.
Please come out next weekend. There are flyers out here on the table if you need that information. We would really love to have everybody come join in.
Or if you don't want to come, there will be meatballs sitting there.
For John.
You can't leave him and meatballs on Superbus.
You guys really can't. I'm telling you how many times he's asked me for these things. I'm gonna need help in supervising the meatballs. So
We need to get you a meatball necklace.
I need one. I have my chicken wing chain, as you know. All right, I've got two more featured readers, and then we're gonna take a little break. But we got two more people, and so the next person I am going to bring up is the author of such collections as Disordered Portion and 47 Poems. I have not seen him for about 2 months, and it's been this has already been a great weekend, and I love all of you. Thank you all for being here reading. But Mr. Victor Clevenger, who is and looks like an extra from the film Red Dawn, we love him.
Worry!
Thanks,
Hey
John.
man, I'm giving you took that one back from Jason Ryberg. he gets
Yeah,
nothing.
Jason's
Yeah. So thanks, Mark, Tony. I know you're back there. Thank you. Thank you, welcome to OAC. Thank all you guys. This collection between Shadow Press put out, it's a bunch of small short poems and canes. I'm just gonna read this one here. It's titled My Little Acid Drop. In dreams, you touch my eyes like a rolling dry wind. Somewhere a plastic radio crackles. So I feel like there's been a lot of dream talk last night, today. About 3 years ago, I had this batshit crazy dream that started a sequence. It was titled The Foxes. I put the first excerpt in a book 3 years ago. The second is going to be published later this year. Where it goes from there, the third, we'll see, maybe 3 years from now, we'll see the third. So, I've got them both here, the first two, and I'm just going to read through it. So this is The Foxes, the first and second excerpt. The distance, black and quiet. I'd fallen asleep on the front porch when the rain turned to foxes. Hanging from their neck were spoons and plates. I saw 1,000 of them. The door underneath a flashing red sign would open, and they would all go inside out of curiosity. People that were smoking pipes across the street went inside too. All gathered in a very small space, they ate meatloaf and laughed about something that I really didn't find all that funny. One fox holds the door, and they start to exit out onto the sidewalk. They're everywhere. Stomachs swollen, lips puckered, sucking on straws shoved in glasses of strawberry milkshakes, like it was a summer night stroll, 1950s. The plates and forks are now gone, replaced by boxing gloves that all have age to them. Cracks filled with the peeled skin from the chins of a tougher generation. The smell of leather thick in the crowd once spoke with the voice of my grandfather. Said that even in a white t-shirt, he'd never looked as cool as Brando looks. But after a sixer of Pabst, he really doesn't give a damn, because cool or not, he's still just skin and bones, like every man. So that means a fair shot at kicking his ass, and fair is fair. A gun, someone shouted, a gun, a gun. The words rang through the streets. All the fox's eyes looked in many directions. I looked too, but never saw the gun before hearing the first shot. If the shooter is good, it happens this way. If the shooter is bad, then they have failed to watch as much American television as the good shooter. The foxes now moving in a panic on the street. I blink. Now I'm on a rooftop, confused and looking over the edge. One shouted, jump. I shook my head no. One shouted, chicken shit. I shook my head no again. Many more joined in the shouting, and a few started running, entering doors which led to the roof where I was standing, trapped with a cup of black coffee spilling onto my shoe. Dropping the cup, they're going to throw you over, I told myself, but I'll never let that happen. Reaching into my pocket, pulling out a between my fingers, stretched out between both hands. I really don't know how easy it would be to strangle a fox to death. But I remember putting a vicious dog in a headlock once when I was younger, because my best friend said that's what men do to show beasts who's dominant. Waiting, watching out into the distance, nothing appears there. I've no clue where they've gone, and charging with a madness has fooled me, like long, slow kissing with a drunk married woman, convinced it's love, but when sober it's clarified by her as making a mistake, and there's nothing more than friendship. It all makes me wonder, can you feel moments of danger without anger? Looking back over the edge, there are still foxes on the street. Twine in my hand turns to ivy. I drop it, watch it twist a few times like a fish on a hook. It lands in a sink full of dirty dishes. Looking around, no longer on a rooftop, now in a different place, things, they look familiar. This apartment is very similar to the layout of the trailer house that I lived in the year that my first daughter was born. Laura walks quickly into the kitchen. My God, it has been so long since you have been close enough for me to touch you, she says. Have you seen all the foxes outside? For some reason I can't talk. I just stare at Laura's teeth. They're still just as white as they were when we met in the 9th grade. I want to tell her that they're lovely, so I smile, showing mine, and point at them with my finger. She doesn't understand what I'm doing. She hugs me, and I'm concerned that she thinks I have gone crazy, and I don't know. Maybe I have. Laura kisses me on the cheek. I look over my shoulder out the window. I can see the flashing red sign again and 2 foxes standing underneath it. Everything seems to blend with the reflection of her and I. We step left, they step left. The foxes mimic our movements. My hand on Laura's shoulder, I try to turn her around so that she can see the happenings, but she refuses. She asks me if I ever regret that she was the girl that took my virginity. That sometimes she worries, imagines herself to be a thief, taking something she can never give back, moments, fleeting thoughts. Most days knowing the maps that lead to the buried pieces of treasure in her mind were burnt years ago, and the ashes tossed into the mouth of the ghost of teen spirit. I tell her it was a gift and never to worry about it, that the lives we live now give us more important things to worry about, like keeping the neon signs that sit above our designated plots and the boneyards flashing the words unoccupied. She stops talking, steps to the side of me. I take a small step away from her to get a better look through the window. One fox in reflection turns its head, the other one disappears. I turn quickly and Laura is gone too. I say her name, she doesn't reply. Eyes closed, I shout loudly, believing she will feel the vibrations of my chords in deep places. A voice responds, but it's not her voice. I open my eyes and a man driving a car asks me to please stop shouting. Buckled tightly into the back seat, I wiggle like a moth trying to exit the squeeze of a damp cocoon. I ask him, where are we going? As he looks into the mirror, making eye contact, such a large face, intimidating but jovial, driving with only one hand on the steering wheel. Knocking on your screen door, good with prying, he asks, turning up the volume. Sure, I say, and ask again, where are we going? Looking ahead through the windshield, I see sign that says tunnel. Everything goes dim as we enter. Car tires hum and the strong smell of potatoes frying in grease enters my nose, and I close my eyes and inhale. Car brakes squeals, glass break shatters at the thunderous sound. A sudden feeling in my mouth like a clump of clipped hair has been shoved through my lips. I open my eyes and spit quickly, falling forward, no longer cocooned, no longer a backseat passenger, no longer a jovial face staring back in the mirror. I'm airborne, feet above head, arms stretched, fingertips touching pavement, dragging. I feel tiny pebbles lodging in the crevices underneath my fingernails. They start to tear loose as my body completes its rotation. I stop, a broken man, awoken by a strange voice. Rolling to the right, a large fish aquarium sits against a wall, and a clothes dryer sits in the corner of a room that looks exactly like my room. When I was 14, the back bedroom of my grandmother's house, reminiscent of a morning waking with bloodshot eyes from a St. Patrick's Day drunk the night before. I listen for the voice again. It gets louder as the door begins to open. Hello? A short man dressed like a doctor says, you're lucky to be alive. We found you just in time. Sore, but all right. Trying to sit up. 2 foxes enter the room in nurse scrubs, suggesting that it was not wise for me to do so as they wheeled an old television strapped to a cart into the room. It looked like something I remember seeing in elementary school. I got to go, I shouted, but they never acknowledged me. Climbing out of the bed, I opened the door, but there was no hallway, only red shrubs in a picture window. 2 men stood on the other side, angry, thrusting their pointed fingers into empty spaces in front of them. So I'm going to close with another short one. Still a dream, a hope, whatever it is. This is titled Shack Town. Somehow we overheard something magnificent, the American machine gun siren.
Well, what can I say about this next gentleman? What I've learned this weekend is that he has never seen a tornado, and my grandmother always said, never trust a man who's never seen a tornado. I'm just going to say that. But, all right. I've at least once, well, twice in the last 24 hours proclaimed him an asshole. I didn't mean it. But I would like to welcome up a gentleman that I'm happy that we have here. He was supposed to be here a few months ago. I think so. Yeah, it's so I'm glad that we could reschedule and that you were here. And please welcome up Steve Brisenaime. Steve.
Thank you for having me back, and thank you for having me here.
Well, I plan on writing a poem about you called Steve Brisenaime Has Never Seen a Tornado. So
I have a poem called Tornado Dreams. So I have a recurring dream of I've never seen one. This is also a dream piece from a new series I'm working on, and they're all based on real dreams. My head is a strange place, both awake and asleep. It's called New York, which is not really New York, Dream 4. Water to the south when I arrived by unknown conveyance. Luggage, contents equally mysterious in hand. Bearings gained, a lower Manhattan sans skyscrapers and traffic, which always fails to strike me as strange. I walk north. A sign, do not pass me by, I'm having a bad day. And now a bus station. Familiar from dreams of somewhere, either here or not. Things relocate when I'm awake, and it's no use trying to pin them to any map. The ticket machine is fussy. It eats 85 cents, my last change. The bills in my pocket bear pictures of high school classmates. The station operator is friendly, but easily distracted. Nothing remains but to wander outside behind the station into mud flats along a river flowing out from a forest of strangely shaped trees, like mangroves exposed to strontium-90 or crossbred with waterspouts. I'm called back, admonished not to wander unattended. The ticket clerk has disappeared. The bus is pulling away. I too love short poetry, even though I don't always write it. This is a book with all the poems in here are 10 lines or under, and I am both the people on the cover, and two of the people in this room, or in that room, actually Shawn and Jason, have known me as both of the people on the cover. This is Low Ceiling. Clouds are liars in deep summer. We will bring cool rain, they promise, and wash the sting of salt from your skin. Then they tuck you in under thick, stifling blankets, pulling the sky tight at the corners. Give me a light. A whiff of Camels on a cold night makes me want to crawl under slow jazz covers. They tell you not to smoke in bed, but I think I should be allowed to carry a torch. Crossroads. God screams through the blue strings of his 12-bar prophets. We who hear raise our lighters, cry, Amen, let it be done. Let it be finished, let all burn until something like gold flows out, righteous, shining. Black and white fog. Absolutely, positively. My father's phrase, or so I thought, but today I read it in Cummings. He is dead. I cannot call him to account for this discrepancy. So we're all doing poems for people in here. I have to find this one here. This is one I did for Shawn Pavey, who gave me the opening line in a Facebook exchange on an entirely different subject. It's called The Boatman and the Queen. Charon has an Evinrude, bought with the mouth money of who knows how many thousands of years worth of one-way passengers. Beats pole work all to Acheron, he says, and he still has enough coin left over to swing the gas. Sometimes, and don't tell Hades this, Charon takes Persephone out water skiing on the Styx. Way down where the river runs still, dark, deep. Her hair flies free like long grass in a May breeze, almost full grown into summer storm bluster. After, they drift at anchor, watching his lantern glint off stalactites. She tells him stories of rosebuds, of new shoots on old grapevines. He drops her off, kisses her forehead, breathes in and holds the only scent of pomegranate he will ever know. Pickling. This acrid, acetic sting goes beyond scent. It sets hooks in your head, your eyes, your ideas about enough and the cost of not having it. Like you're nose to nose with something wearing your face, only with its curves sucked out. Jag, angling, hang, hunger hiding in cheek shadows. Fill, process, check lids, clear the table, spread towels. This is monk's work, a bubbling click-clack chant of pans, tongs, glass, metal. God of all perishables, one says, Father, but those who know vinegar speak first of Mother. Preserve us against want, against waste, against burns and spills and shards. I am a suburbanite, but inner ring suburbanite. I live 2 blocks away from Shawn. This is a poem for the outer ring suburbs around every city. It's called Sprawlville. Those who say they build houses here, 3 rings or more removed from the city's heart, guard secrets and sell a fable. Stacks of lumber, pallets of brick, portable toilets 3 degrees from perpendicular. These are props, shuttled from site to fool the uninitiated. I once saw a man with a map and a big beige bag of seeds move through bare lots by moonlight, sowing as he went. Neo-eclectic here, prairie style there, the odd Tudor revival or Queen Anne if the covenants permit such. His humming sounded like every band that ever cut its hair, sobered up, paid for sensible imports and pleated khaki with royalties from insurance jingle ballads. I do not know how strip malls get from assembly line to busy intersection, though I suspect they're dragged in by teams of elephants, feet muffled so as not to violate noise ordinances. The cul-de-sac itself is actually a carefully bred species of snake. It rolls and stretches to prescribed length, flattens out, blocks smooth gray scales, wills itself to die. Those with decorative brick borders down their sides fetch more in market, but they're also more prone to bite. This collection and this collection I'm about to read from now from Spartan Press, and thank you to Jason for getting these things out in the world, and to Shawn for getting me off my tail in the first place and getting the manuscripts in. All the poems in this book are based on foreign words for which there is no one-word English equivalent. So they're literally the words we do not have. This is Eno, which is Finnish for maternal uncle. Chet Ashlock looked like old pictures of my grandfather. Had that same high, reedy voice. I met him twice, never heard him sing. Once when I was, I think, 5, he brought along his family. They too were as lost to me as the ash tree that stood on my old front yard, or photographs ruined by water. He was occasional to an extreme, and most of them I remember, but more often a passing I wonder. When my mother died, he sent vague regrets. I have no idea when he followed her. If I mourn, which is seldom, it is most often with a shrug, not for one I miss, but for what was missed. Sometimes, though, the wondering goes sharp, turns on in, finds a space between ribs, jabs itself in deep. Two more. Riman, Arabic, the sound a stone makes when it is thrown at a boy. I was 7 when I pegged Stan Sherwood with a rock for no offense that I can recall. He was quiet and not one to start trouble, but I do remember that I envied him for having better crayons. The words of the apology my father made me write to him using my basic 16-count box of Crayolas are lost to me. But I cannot forget that dull crack of impact against his head. He wore his hair close cropped, what we called a butch. There was no cushion against a stone's full force. Or the slow raising of his hand to the struck spot, eyes wide behind wire-rimmed glasses, asking me a question to which I still have no answer. And this might be the longest poem about haiku ever written. Wabi-sabi, Japanese, a deep appreciation of the beauty of transience, asymmetry, and imperfection. This is a message found in a bottle floating in an ancient pond. 5, 7, 5. Rigid 5, 7, 5, or 5, 7, 5. Haiku 101 with Professor Procrustes, who will tell you to stretch or amputate so the verse fits unforgiving form. Stop. Exhale once and breathe this in. Fingers are for sifting ashes of cemetery dirt, not reckoning rule syllables. Think in threes, yes, and in a sequence of 5, elegy, 7, requiem, 5, dirge. Stop. One breath in again, one breath out again. This is the time you have to take in the life of a moment, the time you have to speak its death. All haiku are translated from Trapalmadorian, infinite permutations of so it goes, spoken over that which is past and cannot return. Do you doubt? Crown yourself a second Canute then. Take your seat where time's waves break and order reversals. Dead leaf back to branch, ripples into still center, imago withdrawn into chrysalis. Stop. Your feet are wet. Walk them dry, eyes open to brief beauties of a world of endings without end. And in the span of a frog's leap, let all the people breathe entropy, amen, and set a watch on new graves. Grass will return. Thank you.
Shawn, can we take a picture of all the readers before we break?
Yes, in 1 second. I'm gonna tell the readers to stay here because Agnes wants to take that photograph. But we're gonna take 10 minutes, and after we've taken the photograph, everyone can go out there. The readers have books that they're selling on the tables out there. There are clearly books in this bookstore, which is not a library. You can purchase these books, and we would like it if you did so. So, all right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I want to reiterate again that we have another open mic event on October 1st, which will be 2 weeks from today. It's a Saturday. It will be at 6 p.m., which is our regular time when we have a normal amount of features here. And our features for that day, again, will be Tony Brewer and M. Scott Douglas. So I hope if you're here and you hear this that you want to come, that you do. October 22nd, I actually will be reading here, which I rarely do, with my friend Wesley Hine, who's coming in from Los Angeles. So that's what October looks like. And everyone who read, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. We couldn't do this without you agreeing to come to read, and I know that, and everyone here appreciates it. And thank you, Mark, for letting us do this here.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Tony, for recording this and for providing us with bacon and eggs and all sorts of sustenance. We appreciate everybody. So if any of the featured readers who have been up here, including Jason Ryberg, who's probably over there, would like to come in, Agnes would like to take your photograph. Thank you, guys. And wait for these guys to be done, buy some books from them. They need to eat some food, so.
There is a poetry reading in Rolla, which is rare. So this Tuesday, 6:30 at the library, the Missouri S&T Wilson Library. It's Marilyn Callett, and I do have a link to the article and the event on my author page, so if anybody's interested. We have very little literary arts in Rolla. So
Share that with me, and I will share that with everyone else.
I shall
Even if it's not like if a first Monday doesn't work for you, let me know and we can be flexible.
No, I'm sure we can.
Thank you.
More of us.
John, I got
Everybody's free. Well,
I'm exhausted and I'm going to do the same.
We'll see you later.
What's the word?
Yep. Nice.
James? What's your name? Victor. Victor. I heard Jay and John.
Lesley?
Did you? Yeah. Is they reason? Jason. John. That's a lot to ask. I'm sucking out a lot already. Thanks. And I haven't seen you.
Put me on your list.
Yep.
No, and that's why I had just had my stuff everywhere.
I remember John sitting there from last time.
Oh no, I'm good. If I put the stuff here though, I will forget.
Yeah. Oh boy.
All right, I'm gonna sign one or two people up. Anyone else who wants on this list, you can come up, come sign your own name.
Damon with the O in it, not an I.
I got it.
I was named after the good one.
Secret, or was it?
Right. Whatever that means. Yeah. In my mind, I don't know.
Ken, are you gonna read some?
Yeah, can I put me down there and I stop and then
No. Are you gonna read some stuff? No. Okay. I just figured I'd ask to be inclusive, so you know. All right. Well, that means we only have a few people on our open mic list. I want to thank everybody that's been here the whole time. It's awesome. You're so supportive, and we appreciate it. All right. So, I've got 3 people on this list, unless someone else wants to come sign up, and I will call them up. And so, the first person I'm going to have come up here is my friend Ken Gerke.
Thank you. I always enjoy coming here. It reminds me how thankful I am that I met John. Because every time I come, I hear and meet new poets. So that is, to me, is the best part of it. I haven't written many, but I've written a few poems about January 6th. And every time I think I'm done, something else brings it up again. And one of them was just an ekphrastic thing. I saw a painting that was a shell of, it's really surreal. It's a shell of a house with starlings doing a murmuration, winding through, and like open windows and doors. So, yeah. Mindless direction. There was no order, only madness. Windows became doors, doors became less. A house divided, claimed by a mass that claimed to represent the masses, became a shell. No murmuration this, an uproar. A swarm flocked to relight a star totally eclipsed. Their order a chaos, Disjointed, disorganized, yet contrived as rebellion, brought only darkness. Disarray their purpose, they took to flight, dispersed, scattered, their damage done. I go kayaking in Binder Lake in Jefferson City. I think it's like 180 or something like that. And it's a small valley that was flooded. They put a small dam at the end, flooded it. It's been there for 40, 50 years, something like that. And there are tree stumps that are still there, come up out of the water, some of them are at an angle. And sometimes there'll be blue herons just sitting on them. They've allowed me to kayak like within, 30, 50 feet of them. It's pretty cool. Wild stillness. There's no conversation to be had between us, no common ground that would satisfy either of us. You standing tall on a tree extending from the water, fresh catch lying at your feet, while I paddle slowly past, not 30 feet away, looking for some recognition in the eye that follows me as your head turns. Some appreciation for the sunlight glinting from the water, or the breeze that lightly ruffles your feathers yet soothes on this midsummer day. But you bend to retrieve your meal and tilt your head back to shake it down your throat as I paddle out of sight. I'm originally from Western New York, Buffalo, halfway between Niagara Falls and Buffalo, actually right on the Niagara River, and I want to be there. I've been here for 10 years, and when my wife retires, the thought is that we will go back, that I will go back. I came here to be with her. And Niagara Falls, anytime we're there, I go to Niagara Falls and spend the whole day there.
Is that on the United States?
On the state side, this last time we visited a couple weeks ago, and we actually crossed the border. We walked across to Canada. That's the best view. But yeah, and we haven't been able to do that for like 3 years because of the pandemic. So it's beautiful. Open secret. The sky leans in to whisper in my ear. It speaks of clouds that dance in the wind, of rainbows that dance within a misty canyon. Heard even above the roar of a mighty cataract, it speaks of blue water that returns the favor of the sky. A river that knows my return is inevitable and it flows through me even when I am away. The sky shares with me what is a secret to no one. And I retired as a truck driver, but I started out working on the dock back in the 70s, loading dock for a trucking company. So I actually worked beside my father for a little while. And he's been dead next year will be 30 years. And when it comes to mine, or even my mother who died 14 years ago, it's like, well, I have to write something just to get it out of my system. Not that I want it out of my system, but to get it, resolve it. Missed in any weather. The farthest thing from my mind when I'm chipping away at the frozen layer on my driveway on a typical February morning in Missouri that has as much rain as snow is to wish for more of the same. But here I am on a 90-degree day in August, walking through heat waves rising from the asphalt outside of Target. That reminds me of that hospital parking lot in Vegas after visiting Dad in early June of '93. His chest reopened, then closed and healing. And thinking he'd be flying home soon. You know how that worked out. Wishing I could have one of those ice-crusted days. Back then it was crushed ice in his cup, relief in what was supposed to be his recovery. When he did come home on Father's Day, the gurney that rolled out of the air ambulance held a 96-year-old man who left his 59-year-old self back in Vegas. And back home meant being back at a Buffalo hospital with a glass of crushed ice. I'd give anything to see Dad once more, holding that cup. Better yet, just 1 minute working beside him at Overland Express in the 70s. With the snow blowing between the trailers and across the dock, his face just as red from the cold as it would be if he were here with me on this hot August Missouri day. that thought frozen in my mind.
This next gentleman, we tried to get together and have a reading here like several years ago. Damon was supposed to read at our warehouse that we had when we were doing readings over there at the Dirty Castle, which is a wonderful, wonderful building. If you haven't been, it's just a long time coming to have him here. He was taught for a long time at State Fair Community College in Sedalia. He's a talented visual artist, so I will welcome up David Freeland. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. First, I would like to read Prison to Stuart Krimko. All the daffodils are free, waving carelessly in the winter, and Michael Stipe is singing joyously about the beginning of the world in December. But Leroy Van Dyke is on the watch instead of singing non-stop, and it's about to change the way we see all the women that want to be. And as I sit drinking my black tea, the night is bright as could be, because of stars in the sky, abreast with milk from July. Not at all, but I will say it anyway, since this poem is a way to be carefree. And the wrens are packing lunches, swarming the lanterns by the bunches. The miscreants are in hotels, the meth heads are there also. 4:20 in the morning will be coming soon, and again in the afternoon. And the moon is over Miami. I have to flip the page every now and then. And at the diners in New York, there is a jammy. A pistol in someone's pocket, about to shoot at James Lockett. But Lockett already died, so there I just lie. And Emerson is in bed. He lives on in everyone's head, while they stand up watching reruns of The Living Dead, with their mates while receiving head, and other things that shouldn't be said, while receiving other things that shouldn't be said. And Melville is a place, not a smiling disgrace, with 2 lit candles set in place, of all that goes up in space, like rocket ships and satellites we face, from creators of ships that have earthly lips. Elon Musk must have a bust someday in the Wax Museum, in that mortuary of wax, where everyone's reflections are gas, by carbon monoxide from the heaters, or else by the many breeders that exist to tell them otherwise, that exist to open thighs, that exist to raise human people from nothingness to the steeple, from nothingness to the odor of cum on a plate. Don't you stand up straight, bend over with the fate of many one another, of many to your mother, of many to your mother, of many to your mother. But who's to say that innocence is a thing, or that prison is your brain? Truth is that it's a lie, just like the president in the sky. Their audience is lost, but not without a cost. For stupid people lie too, and that's part of this zoo, because it's part of who we are, says the governor of Missouri. So far, it's just another case of mistaken identity, quote unquote. Or so people want to think. What I had to eat tonight was the kitchen sink. Eggs, bacon, sausage, and toast. Makes for something nice to eat, of course. Except if you think it's gross. And the most I've ever eaten to my knowledge was yesterday. I sank to an all-time low and had to go. But back to where we were with the writing. I'm not
not stupid either. It's just exciting to eat sausage and eggs, to energize my legs with something good to eat. But we can talk about vegetarianism if you'd like. They can all go ride a bike with someone who cares. Because who in this whole wide world gets full from vegetables and eggs and is sustained throughout the day? Not myself. I can tell you that with confidence. And please don't try to persuade me otherwise, or else I'm bound to stare into Sylvia Plath's eyes. Then I might die a sorrowful death, just like sorrowful death, just like her. And the psychedelic furs put out one good song or two, but nothing more. Not an inkling like Poe could write forevermore, nor could someone like him do it again with ice and gin, unless you mean to speak of the likes of 30 men. The likes of 30 men could only do what 10 could do in 1910, could do in 1910. And Monet died a mighty death, and so will I, for I am no writer, and by the looks of it I should die. My stomach is aching to try. My stomach says I'm good enough to try. 30 pounds overweight is not a very good lie. More like 20 is the truth, I'd say. Who should I lie? Why should I lie? The tomatoes are ripe this year, and so are my thighs. So fill the prisons up with women, and watch me not even try. For us breeders are the best of us. With or without kids, we are strong. I fight for you and I tonight, my friend. And I am no longer as tough as you. But I try and I try and I try. So close the prisons tonight. Freedom is what we will see. Thank you. What I will see is how the poem goes. But that was a beautiful little moment there, I think. We can hope. We'll see how the night goes. Getting bent for Bob Holman. And that's when a smoke was a cigarette, when John Cougar was a legend, when the Midwest is the heartland, and eggs and bacon was the end all, when nonsense meant nonsense, and when shenanigans meant it all. When bonfires were warming, when science meant everything, when getting bent wasn't a metaphor for it. Closing the door on regrets goes something like this. Yeah, like this. You say goodbye to the days when living was too much, when touch was enough, but saying goodbye isn't as easy as it sounds, is it? So regrets are too much when there is none. Living is enough. Take it or leave it. Drinking like a fish sounds good to some, but to me it's nonsense when I have to educate the masses not to. And moderation is sickly. Biting and fighting to the words of fish, only to become one in the days of end-all nights, drowning in blood from within little pink houses for rent. And yes, this gun's for hire, but it's not too likely to be a Martian on planet Earth. I'm swerving and purving in the days to the sounds of axles getting bent beneath of it all. Thank you. That's all I've got, John. All right. I brought more, but can't read it. I knew.
So, all right. So, thank you again, Damon. And so we will close out our evening tonight with Belle's very own John Clayton.
Sometimes my poems have references because I'm so old that nobody seems to understand. So if that happens, let me know. I'll catch you up. The first place I want to go is I've had kind of a dry spell, but I took kind of a walkabout, and things opened up a little bit. This piece is called The Duchess of Corning. I was at the Corning, California Burger King eating my double Whopper with cheese. It was the middle of the afternoon and the place was empty. I watched the Duchess drive up in a battered '85 Chevette, cream colored except for the left front fender, which was rust colored primer. When she got out, I noticed she was very, very thin and had an exaggerated stoop. Her long gray hair was in a ponytail that ran through the back of a faded green and purple paisley baseball cap. She wore pedal pushers beneath a thigh-length, long-sleeved jumper. It was 93 degrees. She moved in quick, bird-like movements, and her head bobbed up and down as she walked. She ordered a $2.99 bacon cheeseburger and a cup of water. She gathered plastic utensils and condiments. As she passed me, she said, "Now that's a man's hat." "Thanks," I said. "My brother was in the 101st Airborne," she said with a smile that showed some bad teeth. With a more sober look, she said, "He's not doing good. Ain't been good for years. Has that PTSD stuff." I said I was sorry to hear that. "That's a military patch on that hat, ain't it?" "Yes, ma'am," I said. "Well, I'm glad you made it back, young man." I said, "Thank you, ma'am," as I suppressed a smile. I went back to my burger, and she began cutting hers in half with a plastic knife. She carefully wrapped half of it and put it back in the sack. We each ate in silence. She looked up from across the room and said, "This is olive growing country. They're real expensive at the stands, but the supermarkets have them for a lot cheaper." I nodded to indicate that I'd heard her. The Duchess finished first and went up to the counter and visited with the people who obviously knew her. She held the bag open and the kids behind the counter dropped a double handful of condiments in it. She thanked them, smiling as she left. This piece is called A Good Man. He was our neighbor when I was in the 5th grade. He and Oma lived on the next farm over, about a half-mile away. His son Randy was in the 2nd grade, a mean little bastard, but we played together anyway because he was the only other kid in the neighborhood. Jewel was a tall, slightly stooped man with big rough hands and a way of talking deliberate and slow. He was not educated, but I thought he was pretty smart. Jewel was an Ozark farmer who, like most, raised a few hogs, a few cows, had a Jersey milk cow, flock of chickens, and grew corn in a creek bottom to feed his critters. Jewel cut some stove wood to sell in town, along with eggs and butter, for store money. He drove a 1951 Ford pickup truck. It had been rusty, but he got some leftover water tower paint and stopped that rust with a paintbrush. That was the only water tower blue truck in Morgan County. That year, 1960, was a bad year for my father, who was a Republican. He was crushed because the papist JFK was elected. That election put my father in a tailspin and he just couldn't seem to pull out of it. My father was a proverbial grasshopper. Jewel Naylor was the ant. Jewel always had plenty of wood split and stacked by the end of August to last the winter. My family were digging wood out of the snow to keep warm. By Christmas, my father had been in bed for 3 weeks. It was snowy, 4 or 5 inches. The chainsaw wouldn't run, so my brother and I had been digging limbs out of the dead limbs, out of the snow that we could break, chop, or cut with a crosscut to keep the house warm. It was Christmas Eve, and my brother and I spent most of the day gathering up limbs to heat the house with. We were wet, cold, practically laying on the king heater. We heard something outside and scraped the frost off the window to look out. Much to my surprise and joy, there was Jewel in that water tower blue Ford unloading a big load of split August wood at the end of our porch. That, my friends, was a great Christmas gift and a good man. In my walkabout, I went out to Montana to see an Army buddy of mine, and this is about him. It's called the Watcher. Now he just sits on the deck of his double wide and watches. He's always been a watcher, always. 50 years ago, he watched and listened from the perimeter guard tower. He watched for movement and listened for unnatural night sounds. He was a watcher, but with that M60, he was also a doer. He didn't talk much, but everybody knew he was a doer and respected his ability to be a doer. He remembers that, but doesn't talk about it. Back in the world, he continued to be a watcher. He watched for smoke. He watched for wind direction. He watched for how the clouds moved. He sniffed the air for the smell of wood smoke. He rode the swans, the Flathead National Forest, Glacier National Park, and the Hungry Horse Reservoir on horseback with pack horses, watching, 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 watching for fungus, watching for root rot, watching for canker, watching for smoke, always watching for smoke, watching for smoke. Watching for grizzly sign, watching for wolf sign, watching, watching, always watching. He spent 40 years watching. He never bragged or talked much, but everybody knew he was a doer. He remembers that, but doesn't talk about it. 3 strokes later, he sits on the deck of his double wide and stares at the swan range and watches, watches, watches for smoke, watches for cloud formations, watches for wind, watches for wind direction, watches for wind speed, and sniffs the air for wood smoke. The American flag flies from the left corner of the deck. The POW MIA flag flies from the right corner of the deck. He sits between the flags and watches. He doesn't talk much. He's always been a watcher, always.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody. We're done for the evening. Thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate it. Again, 2 Saturdays from now, October 1st, 6 p.m., next open mic date. I will tell you again, but don't say I didn't tell you. So, we will be happy to have you. Tony Brewer will be happy to have you. Scott Douglas will be happy to have you. And, all right, everyone, just have a good evening. Go to the pool hall, spend some money, go get a hamburger. Just go have a good time.
Do it.
Thank you guys so much.
Oh, I was gonna say the same thing.
Pieces.
So good.
And